Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob.
And we want to welcome you guys to our newest episode of Say Hello to My Little Film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
That's right, everyone. We are back with a brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film. And before we get started, Ray, why don't you tell everybody at home what it is we do here?
What we're going to do here today, Rob, is I'm going to show you a movie that you've never seen that I love. I'm going to introduce you to this movie. I'm going to see if I can get you to like it as much as I do.
Absolutely. We call that our fresh perspective on a retrospective review. And as you said, it is your episode. And this is February.
Yeah.
It is the month of love. And I brought us a love story.
You did. You always do.
I always do. But I got to find out if you did. So why don't you tell us what you got?
Well, I'm not so good at trying to stay on theme. I can stay on brand, but
Sure.
I don't stay on theme usually. But I think I did this time. I did. This is a love story, but it's a love story between friends.
That's it. Okay,
Yeah, it's a friendship.
You know what?
It's a
That's
friendship.
fine. I get that. I absolutely 100% understand.
It's okay to say you love your friends, Rob.
Exactly.
So it's got that to it, and it's got sports.
Oh, there it is. There it is.
What? What do you mean by that?
Of course. You got to bring the love story, and it's got to have some
I
sports.
got to do
in
a
it.
sports movie at least once a year.
Yeah. You think it's only going to be this one?
I think so.
It's
this
kind of
year.
early in the year.
I know.
To blow your sports load.
It's true, and it's true, and it's not in season necessarily anymore. But but I'm doing it. I'm going there. I got a love story. I got sports. I feel good about this month's episode.
Well, that checks off a lot of boxes. But before we get started, I gotta know, Ray, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got?
Well, Rob, what I got. Actually, you know what? Before I tell you exactly what I got, I'm gonna tell you. This is a first timer for this show.
Ooh, I love first timers.
I know. I actually have a couple first timers lined
Whoa.
up, but for this episode, what I'm doing is a first ever TV movie made for TV movie.
TV movie. No, I'm just kidding. That
Yes.
could be great. That could be great.
Yeah. Well, this is how. I mean, not to give it away too quickly, but some people say this is the greatest TV movie made for TV movie of all time. It's Brian's Song.
Oh, Brian's Song.
Brian's Song, the real life tale of Gayle
Brian.
Sayers. Yeah, Brian.
Brian.
The real life tale of Gayle.
Oh my God, we're going to be doing that a lot this
I
episode.
did not even
aren't
think
you?
about that. Oh my gosh. All right, if you guys don't know what we're talking about, you got to get yourselves in the loop.
Brian.
Brian Piccolo
Okay.
and Gayle Sayers, two running backs for the Chicago Bears back in the 60s.
The Bears.
It's about their friendship, and then what happens to Brian. He gets real sick.
Oh my
And
God.
challenges their friendship, and you got to overcome some stuff here and there, and it's a really good movie. It's a really great movie. It gets you the feels, and that's what I like when I see a movie like this. I like movies that make me feel something. This one always does.
I get that. And it's funny. I'm quite aware of Brian's Song, but it is
Yeah.
one, you miss him. You just miss him. There's too many movies to see in
There
your
are.
life. Sometimes you don't get to see them all.
Well, back in the day, if you didn't record it,
That's fair.
And hopefully your parents were nice enough when they were recording to stop recording the commercials. You got to pause it when the commercials start, then you unpause it when the movie starts back up, and you may have missed something,
Nobody
but
does
you
that.
didn't get the commercials. Oh, that's how I watched Ewoks forever.
Really?
Yeah, Battle for Endor.
Like on a homemade
Caravan
cassette
of
tape
Garbage.
like that?
Yeah. And then it'd be a little bit of like some other movie that would just pop in, and then then it'd get back to the Ewoks. So
Fair enough.
we did that. But it stars James Caan. He plays Brian Piccolo, Billy Dee Williams. And, side story, in my room, I have a signed picture of Brian Piccolo.
Really?
Yeah.
How did I not know that?
It's there. You probably just don't, you just walk by it, don't really look at it. Just a picture. Just looks like a football player in a frame. But yeah, I have a signed picture from Brian Piccolo. So
Well,
obviously,
damn.
he used to be from Chicago. So
Sure.
family was big Bears fans back in the day. So yeah. So this one's always it was always a hit close to home kind of movie.
Sure. Oh, you know what? That sounds great. Like I said, I am aware of this movie, so I'm excited to finally kind of plug this hole in my filmography. But if you have not seen Brian's Song, it's time for you to do the same thing. So by
Go do
all
it.
means, pause the podcast, go check out Brian's song. Ray and I are going to be doing the same thing. Then you come back, unpause the podcast, and see if I love this movie as much as Ray does.
Ray and Rob are currently watching The Film. You may be also watching The Film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching The Film. They'll be right back when they're done watching The Film.
All right, everybody, we are back from watching Brian's song again. To me, this movie has got the ability to be like the tearjerker of all tearjerkers, at least of its time. It still gets a little dusty in the room every time I watch the ending. Rob, I saw you grabbing tissues. Quit trying to be a man in front of everybody here.
You know, that's the funny thing about it. It's just like okay, so full disclosure, I knew the ending going in.
Sure, it's based on a true story.
It's based on a true story.
If you watch JFK,
Brian's song,
you know it doesn't end well.
Right, exactly. You watch Titanic, you know it's going to sink.
Yeah.
But until it doesn't, you know, you go watching Glorious
Part
Bastards
2.
until Hitler
Yeah.
gets shot in the theater. You know, no, but I knew the ending going in. It's kind of one of those things. It's a kind of a ubiquitous movie in that regard.
Sure,
like
of
you
course.
know, Brian Piccolo is going to die. Like that's just you know that. It's kind of referenced as a sad movie.
Right,
In, like
yeah.
different contexts and things like that. So I knew that going in. But you're right. Like I think, you know, those emotional moments do hit, but the question really is like, if you go into a movie like this knowing the ending, is it easier or harder, you know, to hit on those notes, to get you to really buy in emotionally to those scenes, those moments you know are coming.
Yeah, and I definitely think that is a challenge, but I think, you know, my context is this movie is going to make you cry, so my body automatically knows that it's supposed to cry when it watches this ending. So it'd be more interesting to hear your perspective. So let's make that the question.
Okay, let's talk about
at the end
that.
and see how the ending was able to hit you. But another thing you know we have to talk about is, as we mentioned in the before section, this is called by many the greatest TV movie of all time, but there are some connotations around being a made-for-TV movie. Mm-hmm. Do we even have to explain that to modern audiences, that what a made-for-TV movie was? It doesn't exist anymore, does it?
Definitely not like this. You know, obviously we are in the world of streaming now.
Right.
Like everything is streaming, and you can, you know, not that network television doesn't exist. And I think the closest thing that probably comes to that are like Lifetime movies.
I was going to say Hallmark movies.
You know, those stations I think still kind of do those traditional made-for-TV type movies, but I don't watch those, so I don't really know.
They're kind of panned, but they definitely have an audience.
Right. I mean, let's be fair, like, you know, the holiday movies from, you know, Hallmark are kind of the movie equivalent of Muzak.
Sure.
You know? So it's kind of like that. But, you know, I think for something like this, it was probably more of an event.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like
they probably built
or
it up
something
like that.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Roots was a mini series.
That's fair. That's a series. But you know, but it's still like that kind of an event.
Yeah.
And like, so I'm sure Brian's song was seen as something more along those lines.
You have to come see it. Yeah.
Right. Whereas I feel like anything that would legitimately be made for TV now is kind of just like, who cares? You know, like, or whatever.
But and you know, to that point, it's just kind of like a regular movie, but not as good, because they can still make, you know, nowadays on streaming, you can make the movie as long as you want.
Right.
You don't have, you know, where these kind of movies, they had to fit in a pretty tight box of probably like 8, has to fit in from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. with commercial breaks.
Right.
The budgets were like nowhere near, I'm sure, what Netflix is paying.
Definitely not.
And so much harder to find quality, I would think, in a made-for-TV movie than our TV movies now, that when we think of like things on Netflix.
Absolutely. And I think you can tell that from the production value of Brian's song from the beginning to the end. You know, it's like, it feels like a TV movie from the 70s. Like it kind of feels like almost like a serious version of those like Disney movies that they used to make with Kurt Russell, like the computer that wore tennis shoes, or the World's Strongest Man or whatever. Like those kinds of things. And the sets felt that way. Very like I'm on a set.
Yeah.
I'm on a set. This
Well,
isn't.
I know this that his house, Gail Sayers' house, is a classic TV set. It's the Bewitched house.
Really?
So it's like they did not spend
That's
money.
hilarious.
Yeah,
I did not catch
they did
that.
not spend money to make a house. They
Right.
used one that was already on stage. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So it is a TV set.
Right. So I think in that regard, for a modern audience, like if a modern audience saw that now, I think that there would be a lot of disregard for that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like I can see at the time people kind of just going along with it.
Yeah, it was.
But
what
I
they were
do think a
used to,
modern
yeah.
audience, if like that was made today, like this was made in the 70s, I think it wouldn't hit quite the same.
Right.
I do believe that. But what it really comes down to with anything is the story
Sure.
and the performances and the things like that go behind it that really drive that stuff. So let's focus on that
For sure.
more.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I do think there's a couple more things that are going to come up in the production and stuff, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I think it's part of the story. It's part of the story of this movie, not the story of
Definitely.
the plot. But, the story of this movie.
Definitely.
But the plot story, and hey, one thing I have in my notes is one thing with TV movies is you have to make the most of your real estate, and you don't have a lot.
Oh yeah.
So like this movie starts off like Gail Sayers being dropped off at Chicago Bears football practice. And then one sidebar real quick, I will say, as a sports fanatic myself, I so appreciate of this movie that they don't do bad football in it. They only show clips from like real football games, or they were
right.
actually filming at Chicago Bears training camp for a lot of the practice stuff.
Right.
So all that practice stuff is actually real Bears, maybe with the actors
They were
standing
real
there.
bears?
Yeah.
I thought they would be hairy.
See how big they were shaved bears.
Shaved
But
bears.
yeah, so it's real football. It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it feels out of place.
Yeah.
But if you were watching this probably on a 12-inch black and white TV in the 70s or whatever, it probably didn't seem as jarring. Like the quality of film probably didn't seem to mismatch as much.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I think having the actual game footage of Gail Sayers on the field,
Yeah.
Brian Piccolo on the field, like I think that's
It's kind of cool.
It is.
In
It
its
is
own way.
cool, and like they were able to intercut like inserts of the actors themselves, whether it's on the sidelines or whatever. They were able
Yeah.
to insert that stuff pretty easily.
Yeah.
Or like when they were in the huddle and like clearly they weren't
Right.
at the game, like that was like in a field somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think they were able to kind of intercut that stuff in and made it feel pretty seamless.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't really jarring in that way.
Yeah, and they did. Sometimes they would have exposition over the top of it, which kind of made
Right.
it feel like it fit in more. But as I was saying, you got to get the most of your real estate. So that first scene, like Gail's dropped off in the car at training camp. Piccolo, a wild ball gets thrown right near Gail's feet, and Brian Piccolo goes to pick it up, and they kind of get their first interaction with each other on screen.
Yeah.
But I do kind of love the little story that he says, as it kind of sets up this like budding friendship, where he's like, he just kind of says how, I was trying to have this conversation, you just said, just like that, just
Uh-huh.
and, yeah, he keeps on, saying how he wants more from him, and Gail's just like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I just like this. Like, it's going to be a little rocky, but it's just the arc of a friendship.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, this movie is 74 minutes long. An
It's
hour and
yeah.
14 minutes.
They had building commercial breaks.
It's built for speed and comfort. Like, let's be honest. Like, it's
Yeah.
So you're right.
Of course, I had to watch it with commercial breaks on whatever
We're that
platform
old.
I
We're that old.
No, I'm talking about right today. We
Oh.
watched it on with Tubi or
that's
whatever
fair.
it was.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, that was Roku channel.
Yes,
Roku
yes.
channel. Yeah. We find them where we can. But yeah, I agree. I think they do a good job of kind of getting right off the bat, because the thing that's going to sell this movie and even sell Brian Piccolo's death is his relationship with Gail Sayers.
Yeah.
I think his wife even does a pretty decent job of like, kind of adding to that emotional beat at the end, but really it's Gail
Yeah.
Sayers is what gets you there.
Right.
So, having this build up, this ramp up is important.
Oh, huge.
And I do appreciate how it wasn't like an automatic friendship, like a love
Right.
at first sight situation.
Yeah.
It was like, Brian kind of pulled a fast one on Gail with the coach's hearing loss thing
Right.
or
Put a
whatever.
prank on him.
Right. And then the whole thing in the mess hall where they're eating, and then Gail ends up getting in trouble, and then
For not paying attention.
and then Brian has to sing the song, so then Gail puts the mashed potatoes on his
Yeah.
seat, just these little things, and it kind of shows that they're, kind of pitted against each other, because they
Yeah,
are.
they're playing the same position.
Right, like they're trying to get the same spot. And I think, at first you could feel it. I think it is possible for you to kind of like hold some stuff against Brian Piccolo.
Yeah.
Because it seems so random. But it's really not until much later in the movie when Brian Piccolo explains why he needs to get Gayle Sayers healthy again
Yeah.
and back out on the field,
Yeah.
that I think you really contextualize those first few scenes.
Right.
Because you
Sure.
really understand that Brian Piccolo kind of being put into this second line role again.
Yeah.
Our running back number 2 or whatever. It's just like it makes sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You can feel for him, especially like when he tells you, like, I led the nation in
Scoring.
and scoring and rushing, and then like I'm come here and I'm number 2 again because
Right. Just
because
he
I
was in
came
high
from
school.
right
Yeah.
because I came from an inferior school.
Yeah.
And you, I don't know how true that is. You know better than I would how accurate that kind of stuff is in the sport, but I can
Yeah.
see how that would be frustrating.
Well, sure. I mean, I also Gayle Sayers is maybe a top 10 running back of all time. So Brian Piccolo clearly was a number 2. But
whoa, he was a number 2.
Yeah.
Speak ill of the dead.
hey, you were the one saying he didn't come across great in those first couple scenes. So,
that's fair.
but
He was
but
a
yeah.
real shit.
but you're right. But and then I think when they first get them to room together and stuff is kind of cool, because
Yeah.
you can see that once Brian makes the team, it's like he's got this level of pressure that's kind of like off his shoulders, and he can feel like he just seems more relaxed.
Yeah.
And just he's like, all right, well, at least I made the team.
Yeah, and I love Gale's line in that scene to like clue Brian in on the obvious, and it was like they wouldn't have signed us both to room together unless we both made the team. Like,
Yeah.
I think like that's like you could see Brian's like the wheels turning. You're like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
But even the like leading up into that, kind of talking about the racial element of it, like it's crazy to me to think, obviously we weren't alive at the time, so we didn't live through this kind of stuff, but just
Right.
the idea of like that being controversial just is so kind of mind blowing. It's
Yeah.
like, you want to break barriers? You two should sleep in the same room together.
You mean the same bed? No, just a
the
big
same
room.
like
Yeah.
you're at school, like a
But yeah.
dormitory. He sleeps in one bed and you sleep in the other. Really?
Right.
Like,
Well, I mean, obviously
know.
you didn't share water fountains. And
I know.
stuff, so it's
But again,
yeah,
it never
so
ceases
foreign.
not to amaze me in
Yeah.
some way, like that's how people used to treat each other.
Yeah, and it was common practice.
Right,
and it
and
was
just kind of what it was.
Yeah. So, but and that's what I mean. Obviously, that's what this movie's trying to do too. Is really start to show how stupid some of that stuff was, and
Definitely.
dispel that stuff. And they do a great job of end up getting there. I think with their friendship. But
Yeah. And you can make the argument it feels a little fast.
Sure.
But again, it's
They're
74
skipping
minutes.
time. Yeah,
Right, it's 74 minutes. So you gotta get there. So
and they go through
make the most of it.
three seasons of football in about 35 minutes. So it's like, yeah,
Right.
it is fast, but it has been 3 years worth of time.
Yeah.
But, so obviously a friendship is plenty of time for a friendship to bud and stuff. But,
Yeah.
I do think too, part of that stuff with Brian at first, when I watch Brian at first, I'm always like, he's just some kind of, an ADHD kid, an undiagnosed ADHD kid who's just always having fun, like really free spirited, and, he's got a lot of energy.
Yeah.
That he's just playing pranks, and it's all, sometimes it comes across mean, but it was really, he didn't mean it that way in the moment. And
Mhm.
you know what I mean? He's just, but because I don't think Brian really ever, he may be jealous of Gayle for moments. There's that one scene, I can't remember if it's the start of like their second football season or maybe the first season after. No, I think it's before Gayle gets hurt. It's the start of the second season where they post they're coming up with pizza. They post the starting backfield on the wall.
Yeah.
And Gale's like, yeah, I'm the starter again. This is great. And Brian's not on the list at all. And he kind of just walks down the hall, kind of just like digests it all.
Yeah.
And then by the time he gets to his room, he's like, hey, don't let the pizza get cold. Let's go. He's
Yeah.
able to he's able to kind of move on and process it quick. But he, because he's got that good spirit. He's got a good outlook on life. He knows he's going to keep working hard, but it's still going to affect you.
Yeah.
That hard stuff's still going to bother you.
Yeah. But I think, and maybe if this were a longer movie, they would go into more of the drama of that.
Sure.
But you're right.
Yeah.
I think, and maybe because of Brian's ultimate end, they feel the need to not have him play up the jealousy angle.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? To keep him a more sympathetic character. Because
Right.
if maybe he were more of a jerk in that time frame, which maybe he was or he wasn't,
Yeah, I'm
in
not
reality
sure.
we don't know, that might not make you not feel for him in the end, but you know what I
As
mean?
much,
Like,
yeah. He
right,
should always come
exactly.
across as playful as he can to
Right.
set up the ending. For sure.
Exactly. And then obviously Gayle gets injured, and that's when Brian really kind of takes on this, like, real solid guy role.
Yeah,
Like,
I think
I'm
that's
getting
when
you
their
back on the
friendships
field.
turns to like a brotherhood at that
Right,
point.
absolutely.
And it's a great story he gives. Again, you got to make the most of your real estate. And what I think this movie does well is when it wants to get serious and have a really good scene, it still can.
Yeah.
And I think Brian, and just a lot of credit to James Caan. Like, I think when his delivery of that story is great.
Yeah.
Where he's just where basically what we said, when it's like
Talk about
he's
it.
explained to Gayle,
Mhm.
how he was always been second string, and he's first string now that Gale's hurt.
Yeah.
And he's not going to have people question he's first string because Gayle got hurt.
Yeah.
So he's going to be the one that's going to basically be Gale's personal trainer, get him back to full health.
Mhm.
And then when he beats him out, it'll be because
Right.
he was
Yeah.
better.
He's right.
Which he
the
doesn't.
line is
Gayle
like-
immediately comes back and starts.
he says, "I'm the number one guy now, and for all the wrong reasons."
Right.
And I think that's it's a pretty understandable mindset.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think something to be lauded, because it's like, he wants to. You're right. He wants to earn it the right way.
Right.
And I think that's a really great sportsman mentality to have.
Yeah.
And for something like this, obviously there's a bit of a quickness to the healing process.
Mhm.
Which again, like real estate, so. There's really only a few scenes of the recovery.
Yeah.
And
The montage
rehabilitation.
is a quick one.
Right. There's basically a lot of the big run thing, like to
Yeah.
race for the beer or whatever. And then there's also the scene in the basement where they're like on
Before-
the
that's before,
leg
yeah.
press
Yeah.
machine, before
The
that.
N-word scene.
Right. Can we just call this the N-word scene? Because, man, they couldn't say testicular cancer, but they could throw the
say
N-word around
Right.
like a dozen times.
Well, that's the CDC back then or whatever it was. Like,
Or-
you can't say, what is that
the censor board?
Yeah.
The censorship board, yeah.
you can't say testicular because that's a cancer not James Caan, thank God. But Brian Piccolo really had.
Right.
But they can't say that on TV, but they can say the N-word left, right, and center.
Oh, my God. I was like halfway through the scene. I'm like, who directed this? Quentin Tarantino?
Yeah.
Good Lord.
It is a funny scene because James Caan is trying to think of some way just to motivate Gayle
Right.
and just like get him to do 2 more leg extensions or whatever.
Yeah.
And so he's like tempts calling him the N-word.
Right.
And just to get him mad and it doesn't work, it just makes Gayle laugh.
And to be fair, Billy Dee says it the most.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
okay,
yeah.
well, I'll give you that. But
Yeah.
like, it's just kind of funny. But
yeah, well, you can tell like he didn't mean
Richard
it.
Pryor's coming out
Yeah.
of somewhere in just a
Right.
second. I know it.
Yeah. But you talk about the racing scene, and I kind of like about that scene is just like they do quite a bit. Like they're racing, they're showing you Gale's. He's feeling much better. He falls, rubs his knee, then gets up and starts running. He's like, oh, he's a lot better. He can take a hit now. So
Right.
now he's more football ready.
Yeah.
But I do really love when they get back to the concession stand where the heck they were going, and Brian's like, hey, I guess I owe you a beer.
I think I owe you a lot more than that.
Kind of cheesy, but it works.
Yeah.
I think it just works.
It's
in the
very made
moment.
for TV movie. But yeah, no, but there's a couple of those in the movie
Yeah.
where like, and you're right. Like, I think ultimately if the movie fell flat by the end, you'd hold that kind of stuff against it. But because, maybe it doesn't, then you're more willing to kind of give it those moments where you're kind of like, ooh, because there's a couple of those throughout this movie that are a little like, a little cringy. But it's a great scene. Like, it is.
And I still like it. I still like the line. It's a little cheesy, but I still like the line.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think, another part of it that's like another moment that's cheesy is later in the movie, like after Brian's, got the cancer or whatever. And then like there was the thing with the little girl, like, in the autograph, which ultimately, like, I don't even really felt like it was almost needed. They could have saved 2 minutes. Like, this could have been an hour and 12 minutes. No, but it's, but when they tell her, the nurse tells the wife that the little girl died, it's like very soap opera. Like the music hits like, and then like
hard cut to black,
right? And it's just like almost like zoom in on her. Like,
the only thing I can think of, the reason why you have that scene is I think in the 70s people's knowledge of cancer was so poor that they might not even know that this could kill you. Because like
maybe.
like when the coach in the movie's like describing that Brian has cancer, to me it's like almost the most comedic scene of the movie, and it's not supposed to be at all, because he's like, the doctor said it just I'm paraphrasing, I'm purposely saying it wrong, but he's like, it just hatched out of his body and came out for no reason. Like, it's literally like
it's an alien.
Yeah, like they
It's a
literally
face
have
hugger.
no clue. Like they're like, but the doctor has no clue why it decided to start growing now. Like, yeah, like they literally have no clue what cancer is. They're like, they don't know how to stop it. And sad story. Brian Piccolo had a very, like, one of the most curable forms of cancer you could have nowadays,
right,
testicular cancer, if you find it early. And they literally just just butchered him with surgeries, cutting him up left and right, center, and they just did a horrible job of ever like trying to actually properly cure it, and that's why he really ended up dying. But but it was the time, But so that's my point. Is this? I just feel like people are like, "What's cancer again? Oh, it killed a girl. It must be able to kill Brian Piccolo."
Yeah, so and I guess that's fair. I guess so in that regard. Maybe you're right. That seems needed just so people would know that cancer can kill you.
That's what it feels like, because it just seems like their knowledge is so low.
Yeah. But even like leading up into like the cancer diagnosis, I thought it was kind of interesting how they kind of slow dripped it, and I think it was effective in the way that it was affecting his play.
Yeah.
And even like when they were like doing the weigh-in and stuff like that, and the coach is like, "Oh, you're 10 pounds lighter," or he's 10 pounds lighter and a half a second slower when he was talking to Gayle about Brian or whatever. And it was like, okay, well, like clearly something's not right, or whatever. And and then like he ends up losing his spot. Hallis sends him home, and you can see the worry even in his voice, like that something was off.
Yeah.
And
it sounded like he was being cruel when he was sending him home, but he's like, "No, I'm sending him home to get this figured out, not to like punish him for not playing well." You know what I mean?
But then you got when the scene after that when he's going home, and even in that scene, their chemistry really worked. Like where there's like. You're talking about it, talk about what's wrong with him, and then Brian Piccolo's like, "Gayle, I know exactly what's wrong with me. I'm pregnant. I think I'm pregnant."
Yeah.
And it was like, so even that moment, it felt kind of like a calm before the storm, because I knew what was coming, obviously, but like it was kind of like a fun little moment before what I knew was not going to be a fun rest of the movie.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of where the movie does kind of turn or whatever.
Completely.
And so I think this is where, I don't know, we kind of talk about some weird parts or whatever, like acting wise and hard cuts that feel like a TV movie, but to me, like in that scene when they are telling Gayle that Brian has cancer, like Billy Dee like really like throws his head against the wall to me, and it kind of seemed like, I'm like, oh, I don't know if that's the best choice there for me, as a viewer. But I also think too, like, you got to remember early in the movie, like they introduce Gayle as one of the shyest people ever. They show him when he wins the Rookie of the Year award that he could not say a speech. He cannot cannot talk in front of people. So when you have this guy who really doesn't know how to express himself, and you get handed this news that's like you can't keep it buried. You can't. What do you do? And maybe you do act out physically or something, because he won't have the words to express that sadness in that moment anyway. So maybe it's fitting, but I'm always like, I don't know. What did you think about when he, I'm talking about, where he kind of just like bowls over backwards and braces his face on the wall?
Absolutely. And it's kind of one of those things that just lends to the TV movie element of it, where
like
it's
a little over dramatized, but it's a big moment.
Right. Well, like I said, just like the scene when his wife found out about the little girl, like her I think she did something with her hands, and it was just like it felt like a soap opera moment. And I think that it's hard to tell if it's a situation where whoever was directing it was used to doing this television shows, things like this, so he was really doing that TV style drama, melodrama type stuff, and instead of kind of like going for something a little more elevated, nuanced, elevated, however you want to talk about it. But so I think there's a lot of that through the movie, but I think you either just kind of have to accept it or not.
Keep rolling with it.
Yeah, exactly.
But then they have a moment where Gayle gets to go and talk to the team, and like I mean, for lack of a better word, I was going to say win one for the Gipper scene, but it's a little on the nose considering the next scene, the scene where when they're in the hospital and they lose the game.
Let's blow one for the Gipper.
And that's literally a line from the movie, like, Gayle, when you devote a game to a player, you don't lose it.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's blow one for the Gipper.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's So something really was kind of weird to me about Gayle Sayers in this movie is like, why was it always on him to like deliver bad news? So like you're right in that scene, like so they tell Gayle that he's got cancer, and then Gayle has to go and tell.
No,
the
he
team?
volunteered. He
Oh,
volunteered.
did it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, he
So
does.
Gayle goes and
Yeah,
volunteers.
he
fine.
put that monkey on his back.
Fine. So like Gayle goes and volunteers, but then like late in the movie when they have to go back in for surgery again, and he's like sitting there playing the board game with Brian Piccolo, and then like the guy comes in to get the consent form signed. No doctors come in yet, so instead of the guy who was like medical staff or surgeon, I don't know who he was.
Yeah, he definitely works for the hospital,
right? Telling him what's happening. Gayle has to tell him, and it's like, why is this always falling on Gayle Sayers? Does he need to go to every room in the hospital? Like, you're not gonna make it.
It's like,
you know what I mean?
He just goes around like, you got cancer, you got cancer, you got cancer.
So it's like, it was so weird. I was just like, why does Gayle always have to be the bearer of bad news?
Right. But I do like the scene where Brian's first scene. I think we'll really see him in the hospital. It's like the blow one for the Gipper line.
Yeah.
Because he's really fun and upbeat in that scene.
Yeah.
But then when everybody leaves, the camera just sits on him for a second, and you're like, ooh, was that all an act?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, because he just sits there and he's just like, smile kind of dissipates. And you're like, is he more nervous about this and he's letting on kind of thing? Which I think is a great moment.
I think you're right. And I think he was. And I think that's kind of the thing is you kind of over this, from that scene on before his final death, like you can tell that Brian Piccolo is kind of fooling himself.
Right.
And it's like, It's funny. I watched a show recently, and there was a really great line in it about like how awful people can be to one another. But one of the line in it like the most dangerous thing that people do is lie to each other and to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's kind of where Brian Piccolo kind of found himself in
definitely.
this, where it was like he spent the kind of last quarter of this movie lying to himself about what was going to happen, and like what it was, and then how successful everything was going to be.
Yeah.
And you could tell everybody around him was worried. His wife was worried.
Yep.
Obviously Gayle Sayers was worried, and all of this stuff. But he just seemed to be like, oh, nothing's gonna get me. And so that's kind of an interesting thing in a movie, because a lot of times the convention is you have this positive attitude, and it all turns out okay. Because you know what I mean? Because you're like, I'm going to do it. Nothing's going to stop me.
As long as you're strong,
right?
You can
and then
beat
you
it.
go and nothing bad's going to happen to me. And then, no. And this, like, Brian Piccolo totally dies.
Right. He totally does.
He totally
does.
And
And he has, and to your point, too, he has that scene with his wife where he's like, maybe I can become a kicker. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's kind of like, to me, like, it's funny because it's like, he's not really joking, but maybe in his brain, he's like, I know I'm never going to be able to be a running back again, but maybe I can still be a kicker.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he knows that his going to be really changed.
Yeah.
But he doesn't want to fully admit how changed. And his wife is like, I'm scared. He's like, of what? She's like, what do you mean of what? He's like, no, I'm really mean it. I'm not sure. Because he just, and I totally get too, like being like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you I think I'm dying, or I'm not going to think I'm dying, even if I am. Like, there's that deniability that's not like, it's a survival mechanism. It's not like being foolish or stupid. It's like, he can't think about that, because if he thinks about that, it might happen. And his best chance of beating it in his mind is don't think about that.
Right. Well,
I think that's fair.
No, I absolutely think that's fair. The funny thing I thought of, referencing again the scene where the hospital staff guy, surgeon, whoever it is, like comes in to get the form signed, and Brian won't sign it. It really made me think of Days of Thunder.
It did.
Just rewatched that, where it's like this. You couldn't even get a driver to a hospital, or Robert Duvall talking about that kind of stuff, and I felt like the mentality was very similar here. You know what I mean? Where it's like when Gayle Sayers pulled the guy to the side and started talking about like being 100% for the game and all of that, like that's that
You're
thing.
right. You're right.
Like, it really kind of made me think of like how similar those mindsets are.
I agree. Yeah.
And I don't know. So
I agree.
Maybe Tony Scott and all of them watched Brian's song and was like, I like this idea. I'm gonna run with it.
Speaking of, too, I also know I've read that the like Rocky and Apollo, when they're running, and like what was it, Rocky 2 or 3 maybe?
3.
But they kind of based that off Brian's song a little bit.
Oh, really?
Sylvester Stallone did. Yeah.
That's
So,
fair.
but But yeah, so then I guess we're kind of at the point of the movie where it gets like the two pretty deep scenes. I think the scenes that really made the movie kind of famous for like
Sure.
just really trying to grab at the heartstrings and stuff. And one would be when Gayle wins the Man of
Yeah.
Courage award, and
Yeah.
now he is able to give a speech,
Which is a great like kind of like weakness and need kind of thing,
Yeah.
where like he needs to be able to find his words. He needs to be able to like speak as like from
yeah,
an authoritative
talk about
space,
his
right?
friend.
Right, and he does. I think that's a great scene for that.
Yeah,
Like callback.
yeah,
this
absolutely,
movie.
absolutely. Like it,
Bigger trophy too.
Yeah, he's got some good lines in there. Like what is it? It's like I love Brian Piccolo and I want you to love him too, or
Right.
go down, hit your knees, tell God to love him too, or something.
Yeah.
It's a good scene. And then he has but then he gets the phone call from his wife, like, "How's Brian doing?" She's like, "Get here now."
You're like, nope,
Like,
not gonna happen.
Not good.
Not good.
Not good. And then they have their scene, and I love like their little exchange. Like, we'll say TV movie. I wish James Caan looked way more sick. Like, just like I wish
You're
like
sad.
I wish he was a method
You're
actor and he
sad.
lost 50 pounds for the role, and he just looks more ill because he still
Right.
looks like a movie star. Like I think what you would do in the 70s when you're sick, like the movie star still has to look like a movie star. He's just going to talk slower a little
Right.
bit, a little bit of
And
that.
get him wetter.
Yeah.
Make him wet. He's wet.
He's not wet enough.
Get him more wet. Spray him.
Yeah. But I just love the little exchange because it's like Brian's like, it's 4th and 8 and they won't let me punt.
Yeah.
I can't tell if that means I want to die and I can't,
I
or
wanna die.
but or it's just like he's like, I'm in this losing battle. Like
Yeah.
I should be punting, but I can't. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, he wanted
if
to
I
be
was
a
punting,
kicker,
the game
so-
would still go on,
Right.
but the game is they're not letting me punt. I'm gonna lose, kind of thing. And then Brian or Gayle's just like, then go for it. Like if all you can do is go for it, then go for it. It's like I'm trying, Gayle. Jesus Christ, I'm trying.
Right.
But I just love that little exchange.
Yeah, no, I agree, and that's kind of what I was saying early on in the movie, where this is the relationship that had to sell the movie.
Yeah.
Like, not to take away anything from his wife, because obviously, like, she had some good
Yeah.
scenes as well, but like this was the point.
Yeah.
Like Brian and Gayle, Brian got my name.
Yeah.
Brian and Gayle were like the whole point. So it's like that to have that scene ring true the way that it did. Those opening scenes needed to hit quick
Yeah.
and hard and fast
Yep.
because they, again, you're 74 minutes. You got to get from, like you said, minute 3 or whatever it was when they're on screen together for the first time to here minute,
Hour 14.
right. So it's like you really had to get
Less
them
than a
there.
Stranger Things episode.
Right, absolutely, to get them to this point.
Yeah.
So that was a big mountain to climb.
Right.
Was to get the audience to a point where this scene hits the emotional beat that it needed to in such a short amount of time.
Yeah, and like I said, to me it does. I get choked up. Maybe I'm just conditioned to, but I always do. So like I said, to me, I think one of the things I love about the movie is I always kind of talk about when I do love a movie, it usually makes me feel things, and usually good things, but sometimes it's other things.
It makes me feel things.
So I used to like a lot of HBO movies when I was younger. But they made me feel things too. But one thing about Brian's song is like I know it's overcoming the hurdles of like the awkward scenes or the bad cuts and the weird music, and then it can still make me feel things like that. They must be doing something right if it worked for me.
Sure.
So let's ask you some questions now to kind of see. So I think the question we were kind of posing was, did knowing about Brian's death make the ending less impactful for you? I guess overall.
So the short answer is no.
Okay.
Cool. No. I think I was a little worried going in because I'm like, okay, I'm expecting this, I'm expecting that, whatever, and like. I think they paced it well, like, again, especially for being a 74-minute movie, getting you invested in his character enough, getting invested in the relationship enough, and then when it finally kind of starts dripping to what's coming, you are buying into it. In fact, you're almost like, man, I hope this surgery does work, even though you know it's not. And then in that final scene where Gayle Sayers and Brian Piccolo have their last conversation, it hits hard. Like, I think... I even think it hit when Gayle Sayers told the team.
Yeah.
And you want to know the funny part about that is I think Billy Dee obviously sold it. Like I think I think it's actually honestly one of Billy Dee's maybe finest performances in that
it's
regard.
launched his
Like,
career in a lot of
right,
ways.
and I think it's very nuanced in a lot of ways. I think maybe even underappreciated. You know, it's not Lando yet.
Sure.
But the players behind him,
Yeah.
like the way that the rest of the team responded felt so real.
Yeah.
So I think that was kind of one of those things where it kind of transcended being a TV movie.
That's cool.
And so I think that's those moments really helped sell that ending, even though I knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm. And
So
that's
yes,
cool. That's important. Obviously, that was the hurdle that as we kind of said, the movie had to be able to clear.
right,
So that kind of leads us to the big question
Right.
of the episode, and something I want you to think about maybe as you answer this question, not to lead you in any way, but we talked a lot about this being a TV movie, so
Yeah.
you also think about, would this movie be better if it wasn't made for TV, or did the medium maybe work for it? So if you could build that into your answer, that'd be great. That would be great.
It's a true question.
If you can't, then you need to find a way to do it anyway. But then the ultimate question is, did you like this movie as much as I did, and would you recommend it?
So let's take your first question first, which is the TV movie element. And yeah, I think growing up when we still had TV movies.
Right.
Those were still a thing. They were still around. They weren't maybe as prevalent, as much of an event as they were maybe in the 70s and
Right.
stuff like that. But we still had them. And now it is a dying art. Because you can call direct to streaming movies maybe possibly made for TV movies, but that's not how they're made.
Not like this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not how they're made. It's not like this. So it is a different animal altogether. And you're right. Like you're kind of built. It's funny because, people kind of complain about, Hollywood movies in some ways being part of like a corporate machine. And I think that there's some truth to that, especially, bigger studio pictures.
Sure.
But made for TV movies are almost like the worst part of that, because you're right. Like commercials are built in.
Right.
Like
They're
you
planned
said,
on.
like it's planned on. It's like you're having to write a script to fit in a certain amount of time because you're trying to sell, detergent or
Right.
something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard to walk into a movie like this and be like, okay, make me feel something. Between like commercials for orange juice.
Right.
So, but Brian's song, as you said, is kind of considered to be the pinnacle of that, and I can see why. But I do agree there is that possibility of being a Hollywood movie and kind of like having some of this stuff, maybe expanded on a little bit more, maybe helping that impact a little bit more. So I am going to say that I could see it
Sure.
benefiting from
Yeah.
being an actual Hollywood film as opposed to just being a made-for-TV movie, because
And I would agree. Yeah.
yeah, because like you said, even like the little stuff, like the makeup effects and things like that kind of stuff would have been treated a little differently, and like the sets would have been filled out a little bit differently, and you might have been drawn into the world a little bit more. But because the performances and the chemistry between the characters were so good, it does kind of overcome that.
Mhm.
So I'm not saying it's a necessity, but I could see it being beneficial.
Yeah.
Now to your second question,
And the most important
question, why we're here. Did I like Brian's song and would I recommend it? Yes.
Yes.
I did like Brian's song. I feel like it'd be kind of hard not to like Brian's song. Like I think
No hard and just hate sports
Right.
or
But even beyond that, I do have to give it a lot of credit, going back to what I was just talking about the efficiency of this movie. 74 minutes. Like I said, you get from
invested in
minute
a
3
relationship. Yeah.
From minute 3 when they're on screen together for the first time, all the way to minute 70 whatever when they're the final time they're on screen together, and you're bawling like a baby. Like that takes a lot of work.
Yeah.
So I think that is a testament to the filmmakers, because it goes to show that you can write something emotionally impactful and captivating in that short amount of time while also selling detergent.
Diapers.
and diapers and whatever else, because again, kind of being part of that corporate machine. But yeah, overall, Brian's song definitely holds up to the hype that I've always heard it to be. It was never something that I was actively avoiding.
Sure.
But it was just something that I just fell through the crack, and but I'm glad to finally get to see it now. All right. Well, before we get out of here, Ray, I loved Brian's song. We know you love Brian's song. That's why you recommended it. But before we all get out of here, Ray, what else have you been watching that you might recommend?
Quite a few things. I'm always going to recommend docs every time I get the chance. So I
Every
did
time.
watch Miracle, The Boys of 80.
Oh,
It's
sure.
Winter Olympics time, and Miracle is one of my probably top 3 favorite sports movies of all
I was gonna say, I'm
time.
just gonna watch the movie.
Yeah. So, but it's good to kind of remember it is true. A lot of it's super cool. I watched on HBO Max that I'm Chevy Chase and You're Not.
Oh, I want to
doc.
watch that. Yeah, I watched a trailer for it.
Super interesting. Chevy's in it. It does not hold back on kind of playing up what kind of jerk he was.
Sure.
I feel like the movie does at one point, really late in the movie, kind of try to give him an out a little bit. Kind of just going through that he had a kind of an abusive childhood and stuff.
Yeah.
But at that point, it feels so late in the movie, like it almost kind of maybe it should have been done early, and then it could help shape your opinion of him.
That makes
as a
sense.
toward of you like shaping an opinion of him, and then saying, but maybe it's not as bad as you thought or something. So, but really good doc. A lot of people talk about like great stuff to say. Has been in a lot of really good stuff. Did a
Yeah.
lot of really good stuff, but just famously hard to work with.
Sure.
Watch that. Secret Mall Apartment.
I really want to watch that.
You were the one that made me watch
I
it,
know.
or
I
showed me the
recommended it. I just
trailer.
haven't
Yeah.
gotten to it yet. I know.
Really interesting. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you need to watch it. It was pretty darn good. Talking about living, people who lived in a
group
mall,
of people,
basically
move into a mall.
moved into a mall, made kind of an apartment, lived there for like 4 years, and kind of just it was kind of their pushback on capitalism and gentrification and that kind of stuff. So pretty cool. There's definitely some stuff in I know you'll totally dig. But essentially we moved there, and at some point we got kicked out.
Right.
But it's all the stuff it meant, how they did it. It was pretty cool. So that was great. And then show wise, I did check out Wonder Man,
Oh,
the
okay.
new Marvel release
Yeah,
on
I was
Disney
on the
Plus.
fence about that.
It's got, I think it's under that Marvel Spotlight, which I think is
Mhm.
what they put. It's kind of where they're putting stuff that's like this might not really be all that connected. It's a one-off type deal,
Right.
like Echo was, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
But it was good. It was really, really, really not a superhero movie. Like this is a guy who has powers in their universe, but he doesn't really look to use them, or he's really trying not to use them as best he can.
Right.
Kind of the story is that you're really not allowed to use them in movies, or
Mhm.
actors can't have them, kind of thing, and they kind of explain why. But so it's really an anti like superhero movie in some ways, but it's really just it's a fun little friendship movie between Wonder Man and Trevor.
Trevor.
Yeah, I can't remember what his
Trevor's
last
back.
name's in the
I don't remember.
MCU
It's Ben
is.
Kingsley there.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
yeah.
But it's really good. It's good. It's actually worth checking out. Way different than I kind of thought it would be.
Well, that's good. I feel
yeah.
like Marvel needs different. Like,
Yeah.
they try, and I think that is one of my like things that I will come to the defense of the last phase a little bit. Is like they were trying to
Yeah.
do some different stuff, and people kept like kicking them in the nuts for it. And I'm like, I mean, yeah, it wasn't all great. Like, I'll give you that, but like they were trying.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is commendable. But so I'm glad to know that they're not afraid to try to be different anymore, because I feel like that could be a thing that you totally go back on
Yeah.
once you start getting kind of some bad reviews and stuff from it.
I totally get that. I do think they don't advertise it the same, but maybe they're just trying to get pennies back because
Sure.
this phase has not been super successful, at least in regards to what they were used to.
Definitely.
But yeah, that's what I've been checking out. What about you?
Well, let's see. I finished up a couple of shows. We finished Fallout Season 2.
Ooh, that's done.
It is.
That means I got to start it.
Yeah, it means you got to start it. I will say I did not enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the first season.
That's why I didn't start it.
It definitely kind of took a step down. I
Yeah.
feel like it's there. I feel like in some ways there was too much going on, like, but also in the same instance, I feel like almost nothing happened.
Sure.
Like-
Too much going on with nothing happening is a bad recipe.
Right, and it is, and they have some like fun stuff. Like Macaulay Culkin's in this season, which
Okay.
is kind of fun, but not in a ton, but in a couple of episodes. And but it kind of like is explains more of like the overarching like why some of this stuff is happening and like who's behind it and all that. And it's somewhat interesting, but I don't know. I just felt like it kind of lost some of that spark from the first season. But it does feel like it could be a transitional season. And I do that happens. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Where it's like, we've got this big story to tell, but we gotta get to point B before we can get to point C. So like, it's just I feel like that might be what we might see. We might see a rebound in the third season, you know. But I know some people, some of the gamers. I've seen like some stuff online where like people are like, has the show ruined the game?
Really? Really?
Yeah. So I mean, I never played the game, so I
Me
don't
either.
know. But I just so. But yeah, that is what it is.
I'll probably still try to check it out. But
Yeah, we also finished up His and Hers.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a limited series on Netflix with John Berthnall and Tessa Thompson.
Yep.
And so it's
my coworkers are going off about this. They love it. The big twist at the end, they say.
There is, and I'm not gonna lie, okay, this is kind of a weird way to phrase it. Like I liked how they ended it, but I hated how they ended it at the same time. So basically why I say that is in the last like 2 episodes, it's like they just start throwing crap at you. Like who did it and who did this and who did it, whatever. And I'm like, it's just like rapid fire what almost end up becoming like somewhat red herrings in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's like they just overwhelm you so much that when they finally hit you with who actually did it, it's like, oh wow, like it seems super clever because of that. But I feel like it's just because they overwhelmed you so much in the last 2 episodes with so much crap that they're just throwing at you that it almost tricks your brain into thinking that this is like super clever. But ultimately, like some of it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And you're like, there's like some like kind of major plot holes in it because of that, and like it feels a little soapish.
Yeah. These shows, I think, have to work on a rewatch. It still has when you rewatch it and you can diagnose all the little tricks. It has to still line up.
Right, and I don't know if that would.
Yeah.
I honestly don't. I think I think they knew who their demographic was, and I think it'll play well to that demographic. But I do think like it's, I don't know. Like I said, I think Berthnall's a little weird in it. His performance is kind of weird.
I've never heard anybody ever say that about John.
Because he was like himself, but not at the same time. Because it was like he played his character like almost overly emotional and weird and kind of dumb. I don't know. It was a weird kind of performance for him. I thought Tessa Thompson was fantastic. I thought she kind of knocked it out of the park. Kind of carried the show in a lot of ways. But yeah, so that one was it's worth a watch because I'd be curious to see how you feel.
Yeah.
I would be curious. It's only 6 episodes. I'd be curious to see how you feel about it. But like I said, it's funny because I didn't hate the ending. I liked what they ended up doing, like who did it and everything. But I don't buy necessarily how they got there.
Right.
in some regards.
That's gotta sell in those type of shows.
So, but yeah. But then I watched a few movies. I watched the Springsteen doc, Deliver Me From Nowhere, with Jeremy Allen White. I think it's good. It's definitely solid. I think I will say though, I feel like music biopics like this in a way have kind of gotten to a point where you have to like the artist going in. Like they're almost so boilerplate at this point that like I don't see it's not gonna like win somebody over to liking this artist, or you know what I mean? Like it's
you're not gonna become a giant Bruce Springsteen fan just because you watch this.
No, not at all. Like but that's not detracting from the movie. Like the movie is good. It's a good movie. Jeremy Allen White is good in it as Springsteen. Like they picked a really good portion of his life to cover because it's the recording of Nebraska, which is such a different record for Bruce Springsteen, especially at that point, because it was all like basically home recordings, and it was just before he recorded Born in the USA, and it was just like and he actually records it in the movie Born in the USA and becomes kind of a point of contention with the record label. So it's a good movie. Highly recommend it. I know you like Bruce.
I do.
You like Jeremy Allen White.
I saw him at the Super Bowl, so
there you go.
That's cool of me.
So at that point, I would say yes, like definitely watch the movie because I think you'll appreciate it because of that. I watched Ella McKay, which is the new James L. Brooks movie.
Okay, I'm not familiar with it.
With Jamie Lee Curtis and Maeve, I'm blanking on her name, Maeve from Sex Education.
Yes, I'm blanking on her name too.
I'm going to look it up real fast because I'm not going to disrespect her that way. Oh wow, her name is Emma McKay or Emma Mackey. Mackey. Emma Mackey played Ella McKay.
Okay.
So there you
There
go.
you
But Kumail is in it. Kumail Nanjiani is
Oh,
in
yeah,
it as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So he's also really good. But it's a pretty interesting story. It's about a young girl who ends up becoming governor, like kind of through happenstance. Albert Brooks is in it.
Love Al.
Plays the current governor, and then like she's the lieutenant governor, and but it's a pretty fun little movie. It definitely feels like James L. Brooks, kind of like a broadcast news,
Yeah.
kind of situation. I mean, dude's almost 90, 85 or something like that. He's 85. So I mean,
He's no Mel Brooks in regards
no,
to
definitely not
age.
Mel Brooks, exactly. But he's still kicking, and he's still got it, and it's a fun. I think it's a fun movie. Like
Cool.
it's definitely not like it's not great. I'm not gonna say it's definitely not up there with his great movies, but it feels like him. So I think that's it's pretty good in that regard. But there is some stuff about it that I would be curious to get your opinion on if you decide to check it out.
Sounds like a cast I'd want to check out.
Yeah. Ao
The director.
Edebiri is in it since we were just talking about Jeremy Allen White. Ao
Yeah.
from the Bear is in it, so that's also good. Let's see, and then the final thing and the biggest thing in scope, scale, and everything is I watched the final Mission Impossible movie. Final.
Oh
Reckoning.
boy.
Finally over.
Right.
No more. So that's what they say, at least, that there will be no more.
It would be impossible to do one more mission.
Right, I guess, yeah. But and it's good. Like it wrapped it up pretty well. It didn't necessarily feel like a finale though, which makes me like, is this really the last
Yeah.
one? Like, but
Might be the last one for Tom,
maybe, but like, but even that I wouldn't necessarily say. Like, the ending of it wasn't necessarily like a super final. Like, this is it for,
Yeah.
forgot his name. You know what I mean?
Ethan Hunt.
Ethan Hunt. Thank you.
So how can Ethan Hunt actually die if he's lived through all this stuff? Is he gonna like be 70 and trip over a micro machine and
I mean,
die
maybe
like that?
that would actually stand to reason. But Tom Cruise had his shirt off a few times in the movie, which is
God
his
bless him.
standard. I mean, he hung off a plane. So I mean, what else can you
For a
ask for?
69-year-old man,
Right,
that's pretty good.
What else can you ask for from Mission Impossible movie? But if you enjoyed this series, like I actually really want to sit down and watch them all, like 1 to 8,
Mhm.
just because it's been so long.
I don't think I've gone past 4. I think I jumped off at 4.
Like I said, I don't feel like they've necessarily dropped off. There's a couple that are kind of like, nah, but like the last 2, I actually enjoyed. This 2-parter, because it's a 2-parter,
Right.
And Dead Reckoning and Final Reckoning, and I think as far as a 2-parter goes, they play off pretty well of each other, and I think they still find ways to make it visually interesting,
Yeah.
and like a new stunt that they haven't done before, and like all of this. And this one they do like a rolling submarine under, like, when at the bottom of the ocean that Ethan Hunt has made his way to. Like it's crazy stuff that
Yeah.
they do. So it's like, you're still carving out little things for yourself. Like, I get it, but I am glad this is probably the last one.
All right. Well, now we are going to wrap up this episode of Brian's Song. And, Rob, it's too late to say something nice about Brian Piccolo in real life, but it's not too late to say something nice about our podcast. And you can do that by leaving us a nice review. If you leave us a 5-star review, we're going to read it live on air someday. You can like this podcast. You got to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't done that yet. Don't forget, you can reach out to us at email at carrayrob@gmail.com. And you can talk to us at Blue Sky at carrayrob.
Absolutely. You can also now find us on both Instagram and Facebook. By all means, go and give us a like on both of those platforms. We're doing some pretty fun stuff over there. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you are on, by all means, let us know what you think of Brian's Song. I saw that it's considered one of the greatest sports movies ever. I want to know what your favorite sports movie ever is. By all means, leave that in the comments as well. We will be back next week with this month's episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend, where Ray and I are going to be revisiting the 1991 romantic comedy Doc Hollywood.
Yes, we are.
Yep, we are both big fans of Michael J. Fox, and we are very excited to recheck out that movie.
Yep.
We will be back in 2 weeks, and
Your
it will
turn.
be back to me for Say Hello to My Little Film. I have something I'm very excited to show you for March.
Is that right?
I'm gonna. I think this might be my first push push of you of the year.
I'm gonna be challenged.
We're gonna challenge you a little bit.
Oh,
I
gosh.
think I took it easy on you the first 2 months. This
Yeah.
one I think I'm gonna swing.
I knew
at
you were
a little
setting
bit.
me up.
I knew it. Yep, I knew I was gonna do it, and now's the time. But then we will be back the week after that with our March episode of A Copy of a Copy, and we've got a special one. A pretty fun one.
We think we found a remake style we haven't talked about yet.
Absolutely. So, everybody knows about the foreign language to English remake.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to be doing the English remake to a foreign language remake by watching the 2004 dramedy
Sure.
Sideways.
Yes.
And the Japanese remake that was made in 2009, also called Sideways.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I've never seen the remake. I knew it existed.
I haven't not either.
I love the original. Like I love
Yep.
the Paul Giamatti, the whole deal. Like I love the original, but I knew that the Japanese one existed, but never watched it. So I'm super excited to check that out. But you are not gonna want to miss any one of those episodes. But until then, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
All right, everyone, before we leave, I'm going to give everybody a little sneak peek of what my first March episode of Say Hello to My Little Film is going to be. And I am very excited about this one because I am going to be showing Ray one of my favorite movies from one of my favorite directors. And that is the 1974 drama A Woman Under the Influence, directed by the great John Cassavetes. I'm not sure Ray's going to like this movie because Cassavetes does have a very interesting filmmaking style. But it stars Gina Rowlands, his wife, who is an absolute powerhouse in this movie. And I think that could be a very, very big saving grace for Ray. And Peter Falk, who will be returning after he was in Wings of Desire. So I'm very excited to show this movie to Ray. If you have not seen it, by all means, watch A Woman Under the Influence, and we will see you then.